Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for clicking play. I appreciate you coming back and watching the video. Well, I want to teach you a little bit more about how the Feast of New Wine teaches us about the rapture. Now, we have learned over the years that every feast has a rapture connection. Every feast teaches a little bit about the entire plan of the gospel, of the entire plan of salvation. And so we don't really know exactly when or which feast we are going to be raptured on, but I just want to teach you a little bit more about the Feast of New Wine. And there's just so much in here, and we're going to take a look at Judges chapter 21, and I'm going to read 7 verses to you. It starts out in verse 19. Behold, there is a feast of the Lord from year to year in Shiloh, which is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south side of Lebonah. And they commanded the sons of Benjamin, saying, Go and wait in the vineyards, and watch. And behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to take part in the dances, then you shall come out of the vineyards, and each of you shall catch his wife from the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. Verse 23. It shall come about when their fathers or their brothers come to complain to us, that we shall say to them, Give them to us voluntarily, because we did not take for each man of Benjamin a wife in battle, nor did you give them, else you would now be guilty. Verse 23. And the sons of Benjamin did so, and took wives, according to their number, from those who danced, whom they carried away. And they went and returned to their inheritance, and rebuilt the cities, and lived in them. And the sons of Israel departed from there at that time, every man to his tribe and family, and each one of them went out from there to his inheritance. Verse 25, in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Okay, I don't think I have to go too far into this passage before you can see how this is connected with the rapture, and a bride is being snatched. But I love expository teaching, so we're going to go verse by verse, and I'm going to just add some little points in here that maybe zipped by us, because there's some interesting things that we want to cover. And it starts out here again in verse 19. Behold, there is a feast of the Lord. So this says it's not a feast of the community. It's not a feast of the vintners. It's not a feast of, the Babylonians or the global. This is a feast to the Lord, it says. And it says it's from year to year. So it's an annual feast. All right. It says that it was held in Shiloh. Well, when you do your word studies, that's Strong's number 7887, and it means a place of rest. Also, that was where the Ark and the Covenant and the Tabernacle rested for a little while. Also, it's where Samuel grew up. So the community of Shiloh has a lot of history there. And then what's interesting about verse 19 is you'll notice that it gave a very specific place on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, on the south side of Lebonah. Well, Bethel means the house of God. So it's on the north side of the house of God. Lebonah, you know what that word means? Frankincense. Oh, wow. So we're given some very specific details about this feast. It's to the Lord, it's every year, and the location is very specific. So verse 20, and they commanded the sons of Benjamin, saying, Go and lie in wait in the vineyards. Well, now it didn't say go lie in wait in the barley fields, amongst the olive trees. No, the vineyards, because there was a feast at that time. I wonder what feast that would be. Oh, I know. I bet it was the Feast of New Wine. What do you think? And it says in verse 21, so the sons of Benjamin are given these instructions. And watch and behold. You know what that word watch means? Strong's number 7200. Appear. Oh, appear. We're waiting for our Lord's appearing in the clouds. Oh, well, sons of Benjamin were told to appear. And behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to take part in the dances, oh, that's the Hebrew word, Strong's 2342. You know what that means? Twirl or whirl in a spiral. That's interesting. So they're being specific about how they dance. You know, not all girls twirl. You know, some jump up and down, just wiggle their arms. But there's some that twirl. Then the instructions are in verse 21, then you shall come out of the vineyards, and each of you shall catch his wife from the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. Well, you know, I want to take a look at that word whirl again in the scriptures. I want to see other places where we find that word. Now, what's interesting about doing word studies is that you'll notice most words have a negative connotation and a positive connotation. Well, this feast, it's a blessing to those who are in Christ. It's a blessing to those who know the Lord. But there's a time where this feast of new wine, the wicked will get the negative side of this feast. So just keep that in mind as you're doing your word studies. Okay, where else do we find that word dance, as in twirl and whirl in a spiral? Some very important verses. Proverbs 8:24 and 25. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. That word brought forth is whirl in a spiral. So, when there were no depths, which that word depths is no abyss. Wow. So when there were no abyss, I was whirled in a spiral, brought forth, when there were no springs abounding with water. You know, I would say right now, there's very few springs abounding with water, right? Then it goes on to say in the next verse, Proverbs 8:25, before the mountains were settled, before the hills, I was brought forth. I was a twirl, whirling in a spiral. That's so interesting. Okay, let's look at Isaiah 66, verse 8. Can a land be born in one day? That word born means dance, twirl, whirl in a spiral. Oh my goodness. You know, these are things that describe what's going to happen for us in the rapture. Okay, let's move on in our passage in Judges 21. Let's look at verse 22. It shall come about when their fathers or their brothers come to complain to us, so the ones who are left behind, that we shall say to them, give them to us voluntarily, because we did not take for each man of Benjamin a wife in battle. So it wasn't during the tribulation when there was wars going on, nor did you give them to them, else you would be guilty now. Why would they be guilty now? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the opportunity was also available to them to be taken. Those who were left behind, they could have come. They didn't believe. They didn't know what season it was in. They weren't seeking understanding into the scriptures. So they had opportunity. Verse 23. And the sons of Benjamin did so and took wives, according to their number, from those who danced, twirled, whirled in a spiral, whom they carried away. And they went and returned to their inheritance and rebuilt the cities and lived in them. Oh, that's interesting. They returned to their inheritance. Well, that word means portion, share, gift. So the sons of Benjamin, who during the Feast of New Wine were waiting in the vineyards, watching for the girls that would twirl and whirl in I'm going to say a joyful dance, full of joy, new wine, they would snatch them away and they would take them to their land of inheritance, their portion, their share, their gift, and rebuild the cities and live in them. Oh, you know what is interesting about this? If you read Jude 1, verse 6, Jude says, "And angels who do not keep their own domain, but abandon their proper abode, he has kept in eternal bonds under darkness for the judgment of the great day." Okay, what I want to bring out from here is when Satan and the wicked angels that followed him to commit unlawlessness and unrighteousness, they left their abode. They left their domain, their position, their power. The word proper abode means residence, habitation, dwelling places. They left those places. Who do you think is going to inherit them? Hello! They've left a place open. They've left a community open. Remember when the children of Israel entered the promised land and they just took over homes and vineyards and flocks and farmland, crops that they just inherited them. They didn't have to build those homes. They just started living in them. Wow, that's what it will be like for us who are raptured. We're going to replace the wicked angels. They left their domain. They've been, you know what? I'm sure they have not been worked on, or no home improvements since they left. Whoever knows how long ago that was. Judges 21, verse 24. "And the sons of Israel departed from there at that time, every man to his tribe and family, and each one of them went out from there to his inheritance." Okay, so those left behind, they are the earth dwellers that are mentioned in the book of Revelation. But we will no longer be earth dwellers. No, we'll be heaven dwellers. But the earth dwellers who they could have gone with us, they go back to their inheritance, what they've chosen. You know, they're not with us studying. They don't know what time it is. They don't know what season we are in. The teaching is going forth. The alarm clock has sounded, but they're not waking up. They go back to their inheritance. That's so sad. Look at verse 25. "In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes." You know that word right? Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. That word right means convenient. Everybody is just doing what's convenient in his own eyes, according to his own opinion. What's convenient for their life. Okay, so let's look at this. Verse 25. Again, let's really look at this. It's saying, in those days there was no king in Israel. So now God is saying, okay, bride, look at Israel. So now I have to ask, has Israel picked their king? Have they even picked a fake one? No, they have not yet picked their fake Messiah. We know as soon as we're gone, the fake Messiah is going to come rolling onto the scene. Many Christians left behind are going to be deceived. Many ministries, without even realizing it, they are actually grooming left behind Christians to receive the Antichrist, the fake Messiah. And he's going to come with signs and wonders, doing many of the things Jesus did. Well, at this point, though, has Israel even picked their fake Messiah, their fake king? No. Have they picked the Messiah that the Father has appointed unto them, Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus? No. So right now, there is no king in Israel. Wow. So this kind of is indicating a timing. All right, so now let's start talking about the timing, because I know you're excited to know the time. And I really do feel bad. I didn't mean to leave a cliffhanger in that last video. I just knew I couldn't cover everything I wanted to in that last video. But I want to talk to you now about the calendar, because I don't want to leave you hanging. And you know, I've been doing extensive research on the calendar. And I was able to narrow down the field to just a couple of viable candidates for calendars, because you know, many different Christian groups, many different watchmen are watching different calendars. Well, our Discord group, we zoned in on a couple that looked viable, and we have given them our attention, and we have now adopted the Zadok priest's solar calendar as revealed in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And those Dead Sea Scrolls were found in the Qumran area north of the north end of the Dead Sea. And I just want to tell you a little bit about the community that lived there in Qumran. In between the Old and the New Testament, you have heard maybe about Antiochus Epiphanes, the Greek general that came soaring into Israel with all of his troops. Well, he entered the temple and he required of the Jewish temple priests who were serving at the time that they adopt his Hellenist calendar. So Hellenists are the Greeks. So Antiochus Epiphanes required that the Jewish nation adopt the Greek calendar. He wanted everybody in his kingdom to be observing just one calendar. You know, that's understandable. He wanted them all to be paying taxes on the days that he collected taxes. That's understandable too. That's what all kings did in ancient times. Well, that Greek calendar was a blend of Babylonian worship. It was a lunar calendar, whereas at that time, Israel observed a solar calendar. Well, the Zadok priests were not willing. They were willing to pay the taxes, but they were not willing to meet that demand of switching calendars to a lunar calendar. So they got out of Dodge. They took all the temple scrolls, the writings, their books, and they went to the north end of the Dead Sea area called Qumran. And all those scrolls that all these experts have been reading are telling us these are biblical scrolls. These are commentaries that the Zadok priests and the Zadokites, I think is how you pronounce it, they were writing commentaries on what they were reading. What is interesting about that, you know, is I have read and listened to a lot of amazing experts on the Dead Sea Scrolls. Jewish experts, Gentile experts, Christian experts, and I am in agreement with the few that are saying that the people in the Qumran area, they are not Essenes, they are from the line of the Zadok priests. They even in their writings say who they are. None of their writings even has the word Essenes in it. Now, agreed, there were groups living in numerous places in the wilderness and around the Dead Sea area who were the Essenes. Many of those groups had been around for hundreds of years, long before the line of Zadok priests went out to the wilderness in that intertestament period. Well, so the Zadok priests, they used the solar calendar. And so that's the solar calendar that I'm choosing to go by and set the feasts by. Now, there's just one little hiccup in all of my research. You know, I found that they're all just a few days off, and it's not enough to snivel about. The range they give us to watch for the Feast of New Wine is certainly close enough. They range from July 18th on the Gregorian calendar. So Sunday, July 18th, I saw a group who is also following the Zadok priest's solar calendar, and they're saying July 21st, which is a Wednesday. And then there's another group, July 25th, which is a Sunday. So, you know, I'm not one to give a date and tell you, oh, the rapture is going to happen on this date. I like to show people how the rapture is taught in all the feasts. So when a feast is approaching, it's kind of a heads up. Do we know the exact date of the feast? No, we don't at this point in time. I don't in this point of time. Not that I won't know when I need to know, but I just want to reassure you, if you are dedicated to the ministry that Jesus Christ has given you in the kingdom of God, and you are seeking the day who is Jesus Christ, the day is Jesus Christ, then he will disclose to you the date at the proper time. So don't let any watchman or any YouTube channel or social media website manipulate you into thinking you have to just be camped right there listening to them 24/7, or you're not going to know the date, or because you're not watching. Well, that's not what it means to watch. Watching for the day means keeping your eyes on your King, Jesus Christ, and waiting for his instructions. Every day he's giving you instructions. That's what a watchman does. We're not watching for a date on the Gregorian calendar. No. We're going about our ministry. We are engaging in spiritual conversations. To do that, we must be continually watching our King for those instructions. All right? Now, I'm going to put a link in the description box after I get this posted. If you are more interested in the Dead Sea Scrolls and the things I've said, and you want to know more history about how the Zadok priests came to acquire those scrolls and take them out to the desert, well, I would really encourage you to listen to Dr. Rachel Ilori. Now, I have already listened to it's like an hour and 23 minutes long, and she has a thick Jewish accent. She's speaking in English, but I had to listen to it twice, and I'm going to listen to it again. I've listened to a lot of other wonderful experts, but this expert in particular, I know that you'll enjoy, and it's very much worth your while. So I encourage you to listen to Dr. Rachel Ilori talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Zadok priests, and she does mention the rapture, and this is very important. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for questions. And I've got a lot more to share with you about the Feast of New Wine in subsequent videos, which I hope to get out pretty soon. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.